Greetings, this is the Anonymous Tutor, and today we're going to take a look at the latest broadcast by Democracy Now, and we're gonna see what's happening in the news. It's October 1st, 2024, and this is a test stream. Okay. And here we go.
/give. Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The Lebanese Health Ministry says Israeli airstrikes killed at least 95 people and wounded 172 others on Monday, as Israel's army said it was carrying out what it called limited and targeted raids into southern Lebanon. Hezbollah, however, denied that Israeli forces had begun an invasion. The conflicting accounts came as Hezbollah fighters fired salvos of rockets into Israel, including attempting to attack the headquarters of Israel's intelligence service, Mossad, outside Tel Aviv. Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati says his nation is now facing, quote, one of the most dangerous phases of its history, and called on the United Nations to step up aid to 1 million Lebanese people displaced by Israel's assault. In Washington, President Biden said Monday he wants a ceasefire in Lebanon. However, the Pentagon contradicted his remarks just hours later. A readout of a call between Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant shows the two war leaders, quote, agreed on the necessity of dismantling attack infrastructure along the border, unquote. After headlines, we'll go to Beirut for the latest. Syrian media is reporting an Israeli airstrike on the Syrian capital, Damascus, killed 3 civilians, wounded 9 others. It was reportedly the third such attack in recent days. The Syrian Arab news agency said its presenter, Safa Ahmad, was among those killed in Israel's latest air raid.
Okay, let's pause there for a second. So let's talk about Israel for a minute. First of all, can someone please explain to me why we're sending billions of dollars to Israel and giving them weapons and training? Israel is an apartheid state. They are a secular state, meaning there is no separation of religion and government there. The Israeli government is a religious government. Therefore, in the U.S. Constitution, it says that there shall be no preference for any religion. So if we're giving money to essentially a religion, isn't that the same as giving preferential treatment to that religion? Isn't giving money to Israel essentially the same as giving money to the Vatican? Like, the United States just decided, oh, well, Vatican's having a hard time, a lot of people down on the Catholics, maybe we should give the Vatican some money and some weapons to protect itself. Wouldn't that be the same as favoring the Catholic religion? So I don't understand. Why do we give money to a government that discriminates based on religion? This is my solution. This is what I say. If Israel wants our tax dollars, then Israel needs to become a state and start paying tax dollars. And if they're going to become a state, then they're going to have to do like all the other states did and respect the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Okay, let's continue.
In the Gaza Strip, an Israeli airstrike on a home in the Nuseirat refugee camp late Monday killed more than a dozen people. Witnesses say at least 7 of the dead were children.
They targeted 14 sleeping people, young, adults, and children. What can I tell you? They were not doing anything. They were sleeping.
So that's the other thing. I see the conflict between the government of Israel and the Palestinian people to be pretty lopsided as far as, it's not exactly an even match. Israel has a huge and very powerful military. It's a military state. Um, you might even call it a police state. It is essentially a fascist state. Um, and the Palestinian people have slingshots and rocks. The way I envision the conflict between them and Israel is, the picture or the photograph I saw of a 10-year-old Palestinian boy throwing rocks at an Israeli tank, and that's really, that kind of puts the whole conflict into one simple little meme that is easy to understand. Let's continue.
On Monday, Israeli authorities released Palestinian surgeon Dr. Khaled al-Ser from prison months after he was abducted by Israeli forces during a raid on Gaza's Nasser hospital in March. He's among dozens of doctors, nurses, and paramedics held by Israel who, according to Human Rights Watch, have faced widespread torture and abuse in Israeli custody. Half the population of Haiti is now experiencing acute hunger, according to the World Food Program. Roughly 5.5 million Haitians are struggling to feed themselves and their families. Thousands of mostly displaced Haitians are suffering from catastrophic hunger. This comes as the UN Security Council on Monday authorized another year of intervention by an international security force in Haiti amid soaring gang violence. This is World Food Program Haiti Director Wanja Karia.
Without food security, we will go into continuously being in that cycle of crisis, poverty, and the cycle will continue. And I don't see food security being given the same importance as let's say, security sector.
Here in the United States, the death toll from Hurricane Helene has climbed to at least 133 people, with hundreds more still unaccounted for. A White House Homeland Security advisor told reporters Monday the death toll could climb as high as 600. Rescue workers are racing to access communities completely cut off by floodwaters and landslides. On Monday, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper toured areas around the mountain city of Asheville, which endured its worst flooding in at least a century.
The devastation was beyond belief. And even when you prepare for something like this is something that's never happened before in Western North Carolina.
On Monday, Donald Trump made the baseless claim that Governor Cooper and President Biden were not helping Republican areas. Trump also falsely claimed Biden did not call Georgia's Republican Governor Brian Kemp to offer hurricane relief. Kemp called out Trump's lie, saying he had spoken to President Biden and praised the federal government's response in Georgia. Meanwhile, in Mexico, at least 22 people have been confirmed dead after Hurricane John ravaged coastal communities in southwestern Mexico last week. In a major win for abortion rights, a judge in Georgia struck down the state's 6-week abortion ban Monday, ruling it unconstitutional, ordering authorities to return to laws that were in place before 2022's overturning of Roe v. Wade. Abortions are now legal in Georgia until around 22 weeks of pregnancy, though Monday's ruling will likely be challenged and is expected to land before Georgia's Supreme Court before a final decision.
Okay, let's hold on there for a second. Roe versus Wade. I can understand both sides of this argument, so I don't think it's a left versus right thing. This is a complex issue, and there's every case needs to be treated differently. But in general, I thought Roe versus Wade struck a pretty good balance, which was, more or less 15 weeks. And up to that point, it's in the woman's decision pretty much, every time. And then after 15 weeks, the state gets involved. I can kind of understand that. I think 15 weeks is a pretty good way to go with that. It's worked for a long time under Roe versus Wade. Actually, I think Roe versus Wade was slightly less than 15 weeks, but 15 weeks seems reasonable to me, and I think that should be the law of the land. Let's continue.
The Biden administration's further tightened restrictions on the right to apply for asylum, ordering authorities to shut down the U.S.-Mexico border if the number of immigrant apprehensions exceeds a daily average of 1,500. The new asylum ban, which takes effect today, is an expansion of a policy enacted in June that sealed off the southern border when the number of asylum seekers exceeded a daily average of 2,500. As part of the tougher policy, Biden officials are also now counting on all migrant children arriving at the border towards the daily average. The ACLU said in response, quote, "This restrictive rule is not just immoral, but illegal."
Okay, hold on there. Let's talk about immigration for a second. So, I generally do not believe in political borders. I was really surprised as a child to learn that, our freedom of movement on the planet was restricted by political borders. It just didn't make sense to me that people would do that to themselves. So I'm very much globalist in the sense that I see us all as one big human family, and we should all be free to go wherever we want on the planet. That being said, I agree that because we have been under this sort of feudal system for so long, where essentially different gangs have taken control of certain parts of the planet and they skirmish with each other. I mean, that's been ever since the beginning of human history. I think what we need to do to evolve as a species is go beyond that and realize that it's one planet, we're one species, and we have a common goal, which is to transcend the boundaries imposed on us by our gravitational well. And we need to escape our gravity well, and we need to establish colonies in outer space, colonies of Earth, in the name of all nations for all people. But I agree that because we've been in this feudal system for so long, we're at a point where if you just allowed, yes, we do. I want open borders, but I recognize that we need to open those borders in a controlled way. We have to somehow manage it so as to minimize the economic impact on certain populations. Like, you don't want to have, one population who's pretty happy and comfortable being unreasonably affected by this other population that just really doesn't have it together. And so it has to be done in a controlled way. And in a balanced way, so we can integrate and make it safe for people to travel wherever they want to go. Okay, let's continue.
Some 45,000 dock workers across the eastern United States and Gulf Coast walked off the job this morning in the first strike of its kind in almost half a century. The International Longshoremen's Association, which represents workers at 36 ports from Maine to Texas, is demanding higher wages and guarantees that jobs won't be automated. This is Daniel Amali, a worker who joined picket lines this morning at Port Elizabeth outside New York City.
The ILA is fighting for respect, appreciation, and fairness in a world in which corporations are dead set on replacing hardworking people with automation. Employers...
Let's just pause there for a second. Okay. I'm all for fair wages, but if it's a job that I can get and I don't even need to know how to read to get the job, because this guy apparently has a little trouble reading and talking, then I don't think I should be making more than some guy who or woman who spent 4 years of their life studying a profession and educating themselves and learning how to do something skilled. I am educated. I'm a specialist in my field, and it bothers me that it's difficult for me to find a job that pays a lot more than the people working at McDonald's in California. So, you know, it's got to be it's got to be commensurate. Pay should be commensurate with the skills involved. So yeah, this guy is obviously, there's not probably a lot other professions he's going to be able to do at this point in his life. He's going to be a dock worker, and he could do some self-education, learn how to read better if he wants to get paid more. That's my opinion. Okay, let's keep going.
Push automation under the guise of safety, but it is really about cutting labor costs to increase their already exceptionally high profits.
On Sunday, President Biden.
That's the other thing. The robots are taking over. They're going to take over all those lower pay, menial kind of jobs. Those jobs are going to be going away. The robots are coming. So these people are going to have to figure out something else to do. And yes, we are going to need some kind of universal guaranteed income to, prevent major social unrest throughout the country. Okay, let's continue.
Biden told reporters he will not invoke the anti-union Taft-Hartley Act, which would allow the president to break the strike by ordering an 80-day cooling off period. We'll have more on the port strike later in the broadcast. Hundreds of tenants in Kansas City, Missouri, have launched a rent strike to protest the state of disrepair of their apartment buildings and demanding protections from corporate landlords. The Tenant Union Federation says renters in North Carolina, Michigan, Illinois, South Carolina, Kentucky, Montana, and Illinois may soon start withholding their rents in what could become a coordinated nationwide movement. Rent strikers are also demanding the U.S. government take action, including imposing a federal rent cap. Democracy Now! Spoke with one of the striking Kansas City tenants.
What's happening down here to us in Quality Hill Towers isn't unique. It isn't special. It isn't one-off. This is happening to people all across the country. It's happening to people everywhere in federally backed buildings. If anything, we're the first of a tenant reckoning. There's people organizing all across the country. Tenant unions organizing all across the country to get what we need and get what we deserve.
Okay, let me pause it right there. She's absolutely right. It's happening all across the country. Why? Because, the population is exceeding the available housing market. And the housing market knows this. They know they can charge whatever they want. So they charge outrageous prices for rent. And it's putting hardworking professionals who actually earn a pretty good living out on the street, and I don't see any solution to that problem anytime soon, other than, you have to have the water to build the houses. The situation is going to keep getting worse before it gets better. Okay, I'm going to end this stream right now. This is the first part of this, and it has been a test stream. I might make it public later, but probably